Welcome back, everyone. It's been a minute since we've done a reading, and this is an interesting one. This is done with my alchemical book. This is the guidebook, or my alchemical deck. This is the guidebook for that deck. And all of the cards in here are connected to alchemy, or about alchemy. So this reading specifically is going to resonate more so with those of you who are more involved in your growth process, spiritual journey, whatever it may be, from an alchemical standpoint. But I am getting interesting. Clarify that. Okay, clarify. Thank you. So what I'm getting here is a big shift that is underway planetarily. Now I have to say this very slowly and separately. Planetarily, Pluto and Saturn coming out. That is inhibiting a process called dissolution to happen in a collective who is ready for it. Now, every collective who adheres to this call, dissolution, every person in that collective plays a role as a domino for the rest of the world. So, that being said, the main card to come out, or the first card to come out, was Oil of Vitriol. And it has the green lion on it. I'm going to read briefly what this means. And then I'm going to get into it more so from my perspective. But oil of vitriol, acidity, resentment, purification. When the green lion appears, a great alchemical reckoning is afoot. Long-standing frustration and imbalance cause this regal creature to lash out unconsciously, consuming all in its path. Be prepared for emotional turmoil as the lion thrashes about. Don't worry, these changes are necessary for growth, and in the end will be a relief to all. So this dissolution is a process of returning to water, returning to formlessness, and for many in the alchemical world, it represents a release of the self, so to speak. And kind of a joining with the soul here. There is kind of like a purification aspect to this with the white dove, and the blue, the third eye, like seeing the truth, this indigo color, but also your truth. So it's interesting. It's almost like a dissolution between the throat and the third eye that's kind of happening at the moment, or even a tango, so to speak, between those two chakras for the most part. But this oil of vitriol is the challenge. Okay, this anger, this acidity, this resentment, this frustration, it is a challenge. The liver is playing a huge part in this. The purification, the clearing, the cleansing of the liver, and what lives under those emotions in the liver is integrity, I believe. I might have just screwed that one up. I thought it was integrity. Give me a moment. I think that's the lungs. My bad, guys. I'm speaking so much light language too. I will say that's really interesting about this process right now and what I'm feeling. Compassion, my bad, not integrity, compassion. Integrity is at the lungs. Anyway, compassion is at, oh wow. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Compassion lies beneath all the anger and resentment at the liver. And many of us know that the liver is what processes a lot of medications and alcohol and things like that. And right now there has been a lot of pressure around those who are in the midst of drowning in addictions and things like that to have that wake up call, to have that intervention moment. This is why, because even if you are at a far and involved with a person in some way, you are, again, they are a domino effect for you. They are a catalyst for you. And that's It's uprooting a lot of codependency. It's uprooting a lot of relationships where there's enabling around those types of things, and behaviors, and allowance for that anger to fester, right? Because when you're in a codependent connection and when you're somewhat solving each other's problems, you never fully solve the problem yourself. And so that anger and that resentment still exists. You just have something that kind of dampens it, right? You have the other person's emotions, you have sex, you have fun, you have friendship, you have compassion, you have someone to, lay your head on their shoulder. When you don't have that and you have to find that on your own, right, which many go through in that process of healing the liver, healing addiction, you have to sit with that anger. You have to sit with that anger and not only let it pass, but come to peace with it after it does. It can be a very striking experience to feel such anger, and this anger is coming up as acidity. This also, I'm like low key, you might want to eat some more like yogurt, milk, dairy, things like that basically like will balance out the pH, can help with this processes too, just like a side note. But basically, especially if you're having heartburn, or that acidity come up in the stomach, having stomach issues, eat some yogurt. That will help quite a bit. Anyway, this process is definitely going to take some time. The demons, I was working with the demons on this yesterday, and I heard this is going to take 3 weeks at least to pass through this phase. So there is going to be quite a bit. And it was funny because in the beginning my throat was going in and out. I'm feeling it going in and out again. This is because a lot of you guys are either not fully seeing the full amount of dissolution that you're going through this process, and some of you aren't seeing the people tied to you and how much their energy is siphoning from you as you go through this process, and they either refuse or they pull back and forth, or they try and pull you away from that process. So some of you guys, this is why these issues with codependency, partnerships, relationships, love have been coming up so intensely, is because you have to understand the balance that is needed to go through such a process. And some of you guys, your bodies, your consciousness has already chosen. Your human brain, right, has to say yes. Your human brain has to say yes. And sometimes we don't realize the things that are involved and required when it comes to this, and how much of an energetic transfer can happen in these situations, and throw you off. So we have Saturn in Aries right now, who's really, really, really trying to help us come to reality checks and wake up to the versions of ourselves that we have been sleeping on or refusing to put out into the world because of other people's viewpoints and perspectives and judgments and their prejudice and things like that. And then Pluto is like collectively pressurizing a lot of things, including this at the moment. It's almost like a clashy energy that's saying I'm hearing come together right now over me. So I'm hearing that song, and I keep seeing 11th house in reverse. 11th house keeps coming out in reverse with Saturn in reverse, and then this Cancer energy, Jupiter's in Cancer. And there's so much around bringing water energy, bringing heart-centered energy, bringing love to the forefront to work through basically any challenge we're faced with right now. Like, it's like water is the key, water is the promise, water is the answer. But we're having a hard time with that water because every single person going through this dissolution process is realizing at some point there is a double-edged sword. At some point there is a paradox in this healing process where it's not dichotomous. It's not this or that. It's not black or white. There is a spectrum there. There is a very unique angle that you have. And there's like this realization that happens at some point during the alchemical journey for every alchemist, where you realize like there are parts of this that people will never understand. There are parts of this that people, like 99.99999% of people, are not going to get about my angle. But there's a lot of things in that people can relate to, right? That's the great paradox. That's the great paradox between the self, the truth, an authentic truth of yourself, and then the truth of the third eye, the actual truth, the whole truth, right? So this is representing a lot of people's deconstructions of religion, of the good and evil complex. And when I say this, so many people are like, I'm not really concerned about that. Yes, you are. If you've ever drank alcohol, if you've ever smoked a cigarette, if you've ever done any kind of drugs, if you've ever had any opinion on what is right or wrong in the government, in any kind of industry, when it comes to money, when it comes to what, gender rights and who's allowed to do what and who should be playing what role, and then yes, you are deconstructing religion and religious trauma, period. That's one thing that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to deconstruction of religion and religious trauma, is that so much. Do you hear my voice gets groggy too? That's a sign that there's a lot of people that I am tapped into that are having a hard time being honest with themselves about just how much religion affects their decision-making processes. Because you just don't realize how embedded it is in literally every decision that we make, and has been since the dawn of the freaking Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like, since then and probably before that. I mean, I don't do religious studies on that level when it comes to histories and dates and stuff. I study stuff based on what I need to know shamanically for my trance mediumship gifts. But other than that, like, I don't study religion like that. I did have like a stint with Revelations, because I think Revelations explains the ascension process. I think it breaks down the activation of the 7 chakras and that whole experience. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I relate to that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I used to not feel that way either. But what I can say, and what I like to teach you guys, I teach from my experience and I teach from what I've learned. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is a massive subconscious cracking open that I'm seeing everyone go through. It's just the between now and when people's consciousness actually catches up to what's happening, I don't know the timeline. So I think there's a lot of you guys who are going to catch up in this season. Like, holy crap, I really was being driven subconsciously by a lot of religious beliefs. And that process takes years to fully unravel. So we'll continue to let that open up. But then there's going to be a lot of people who this is starting to change their mind, or is starting to awaken them to patterns in their behaviors and stuff. And you never know when they're actually going to admit, like, oh shit, that actually was from my religious background. or that was from how religion affects us societally, and how I was indoctrinated into certain institutions within society that are run under some kind of religious narrative at the root, at the foundation. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that this is huge, but what do people, when people realize just how big of a foundation their mind, this is when people are like, I don't like to feel dumb. Don't make me feel stupid. Don't make me feel dumb. I know what I think. I know who I am. And guess who's helping with that? Saturn and Aries. I know who I am. I know what I think. You can't tell me who I am and what I wasn't realizing about life. Don't you dare. right? That's the kind of energy coming in. There's a lot of competitiveness. There's a lot of arrogance. There's a lot of hoity-toity, I'm better than you, I because of XYZ and education and things look better on paper kind of thing. And then there's those of you who are innovating and doing things like completely outside the box, breaking societal rules and conditioning and breaking things within your industries and institutions that you have been a part of. And those are the things that you're going to be dealing with, is like the jealousy, the resentment, the competition. And for a lot of you guys, it's funny because the competition doesn't even make sense. For confirmation, like there is no competing, right? It's just that's how we've been trained as human beings. We have been conditioned to compete. And when it comes to authenticity, there is no competition because your authenticity is different than the next person, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't make sense. So this is the resentment of the liver. And if you think about alcoholics, the same thing. When alcoholics get angry, it doesn't really make sense. The parts of them that are coming out or how they're acting, the erratic behavior of addicts and stuff, it's the exact same thing. This type of anger doesn't make sense. This type of acidity, it doesn't make sense, but it does. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the paradox. It doesn't make sense, but it does. It's your body saying, I'm really irritated because I know better. It's your consciousness saying, I know better, I have answers, but like my stupid brain won't catch up, right? It's that kind of like, do you see like a kid being like, my stupid brain won't catch up and I'm so angry. And it's like almost being angry at yourself, but not knowing why. So you're just angry at the world because really it's the world that set this whole foundation up. So yeah, there's a lot of that. It's kind of the spiral of healing anger. It is the spiral of healing where you just go over and over and over and over and over the same problem so many times, but like there's never a real solution. And I'm tired and frustrated. And I really feel it's interesting because I feel that's kind of why these two cards came out as clarifiers. We have Summer and Sulfur. Now, those of you who do witchcraft know that sulfur is used often for clearing demonic energies. It's also used for other forms of divination, but it really is, it's like a darker energy, and it is to disperse certain energies in the underworld. It's connected to that. And that's what I've been told, and that's how I've used it in the past. I'll just say that. I'm sure there's some of you who guys might do more witchcraft, spellcraft than I do, who might differ on that. But basically that's what I've been told. So anyway, this red and this sulfur, which there's something about this sulfur that's like, it's there and it's not. It's a challenge, but it's also not. So sulfur has this kind of in and out, back and forth, not fully there, but it's an evaporating quality in the book. And what I thought was really interesting about this was the Summer card kind of represents the tree of life in some ways. But that red dot in the center is giving this sulfur energy. When the two came out together, I was like, that's fascinating. The way I feel like this is a piece that somehow completes or helps complete this tree of life. Now, summer is expansive. Summer is about expansion and vitality. And this emblem up here really made me think of like an evil spirit. And then what I know from my work in the underworld, it made me think not just an evil spirit, a misunderstood, a lost spirit or aspect of self or family tree, or even more macrocosmically, the collective. So this is kind of like an angry, evil, dark, lost, forlorn aspect of self or the soul. Lost, fragmented, often time and space, and the sulfur coming in that helps us regain access to it and bring it home. And the sulfur again is it's giving something that because it smells, okay, it stinks, it smells really bad, but it also evaporates quickly and is useful. So there's something about this that's like, eek, ugh, ick, right? But it's needed to regain access to this and bring it home. So that's why I'm getting this tree of life aspect from this, and I'm also getting there's something. Have you ever seen the image of Winona Ryder who goes down to the she goes to hell with, I think it's in Beetlejuice when she goes to wherever with him, and there's an image of her and her hair is a mess and she's smoking a cigarette. I'm pretty sure it's from Beetlejuice. Anyway, that image, I've seen so many memes of it where they say me going back down to hell intentionally knowing that I'm an alchemist and it's gonna help me alchemize something or come up higher or something like that. That's kind of what I'm getting from this. So this anger, wherever it comes from, and the biggest challenge is like pointing fingers with this when this energy comes out. But wherever this energy comes from, this is like a heads up. You have the ability to alchemize this, and instead of focusing on how do I fix this, how do I change this, what is this pulling you towards? What is this directing you towards, or pulling you towards, or asking you to integrate within yourself? What do you want? What do you crave? What do you need? What is the answer? What is pulling you? There's going to be, it is not going to be that direct, like, yes, this is the sulfur to your summer. No, it's not always like that, but some of you guys, there might be something that you're being asked to incorporate in your daily life that works like this sulfur, and it might be something that stinks, it might be something that people don't like, it might be something that you might question it, but because other people question it. But that's why I come back to what we talked about with deconstructing religion, is what this sulfur is for you, whatever this thing is that you want to incorporate or bring back into your life or pull back up or put back into your energy field. What is this for you? Is it a person? Is it an environment? Is it a type of music? Is it a substance? Is it a food? Is it do you know what I'm saying? Some of you guys are being asked to incorporate, and it helps to level something out here, right? So this sulfur, it helps to level something out, but it also helps to heal this, access this, work through this, which is giving me Aquarius, right? So I heard once here's an example of what I mean by this. I heard once a healer who would say, stop listening to that type of music. And I could feel it being like insinuating something that was either like a lower frequency or something that talked about negative things. And I went back and forth with this for the longest time, because I can feel the frequency changes in music and sometimes, and I can feel when something is changing my frequency or making things darker. But there was also music that I never wanted to leave behind. And the deeper I went on my path, there were so many other examples when it came to this kind of thing that started to show me you don't have to eradicate anything fully out of your life. But are you ready for how much that stinks when it's around? This is the paradox of life, right? It's like the attempt to fully purify something in the smaller sense of purity. It's like the desire to purify something because the wound hurts so bad, right? So we're gonna cleanse it so clean to the point where nothing touches it. But then when you go back out into the world, that wound is not immune to what it faces. So it's almost like if you were to eradicate all negative frequency music out of your life, and then you were to go back out into the world, you wouldn't be able to go to your favorite concerts. You would have a hard time going out in certain places because of the music. You can't control what the music's going to be. And then what do you do in those situations? So essentially what I'm getting from this is whatever it is that you find helps you bridge the gap, you're going to find an answer about how that thing, why you thought you couldn't have it or why you thought you couldn't be around it, was based on some kind of religious trauma as well. Bing! And then when it comes to that, right, when you go deeper with that, how do you find a balance with it? Okay, well, if I don't want it there all the time, okay, but I want it there sometimes. So how do I find that balance? That is where the work lies. And the anger part of this process, specifically, they're saying over the next 3 weeks, is going to be highlighted. Mainly due to Mercury this week, next week, and the next. Yeah, so Mercury's not going to be out of its post-shadow retrograde until the 25th, so that really does give like 3 weeks. What else? I mean, other than that, just this is going to be a back and forth process anyway. But specifically the big hump that we're sitting in right now, like as a healer, I have felt a massive amount of negative energy coming through the collective channel since last week, since we had those crown upgrades. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw out a limb here and just let you guys know this is everyone's kind of shedding right now due to those crown upgrades. And I talked about this on my live recently, that energy has to be transmuted when it's shed. And not everybody who is shedding this energy is a transmuter or is actively conscious of the need to transmute that stuff. So some of you are feeling more of it than others. It's like we're all having to work together to push the frequency higher collectively. So just be aware of that. As this process happens, it's going to naturally break down some people who are not expecting it. It is going to naturally cause some drama and chaos where we didn't plan for it. But it's natural and it's part of how we get from point A to point B. So trust the process, come back to yourself, come back to what is within your control. And what is your sulfur? What is your sulfur? Let that be the next step into expanding and opening your life to more. I hope this helped. So much love. Oh, and the last thing I will say, oh yeah, I almost forgot this part. This is the challenge card. It's at the bottom of the deck, resin. And some of you guys, this is about getting stuck. This is about getting stuck. And I like to use this example because one time I used this in a post before on TikTok, but it's been a while. I went snowboarding once because I'm a skier, and I went snowboarding once and I like hated the fact that I couldn't go on black diamonds, and I was like having to go down the bunny slopes, and I kept getting like I kept just getting all like messed up. And I basically couldn't do the basic stuff, so I just gave up, right? I just gave up and said, screw it, I'm just gonna go skiing. And then when I got in my skis, I went down a black diamond, and I went down one that had moguls, and the moguls had these big humps on it, and I was like, okay, you're gonna do the same thing, but you're gonna face you're gonna do something different, but you're gonna face the same problem. So I got stuck between these two moguls because it was just like too much at one time. And I ended up like getting pissed off and taking my skis off and like walking the whole way down. So because I moved too slowly down the moguls because I was like, these are too big, this is too much. So basically the message about this is don't give up, don't stop. The resin, it gives a potential for you to get so stuck in these situations where you're trying to compare what you're going through now with something else, something that you've mastered. And there's aspects to this process that are going to be so foreign, so unknown, that some of you guys are going to have a hard time keeping up with yourself. There's going to be pieces of you that are like, I've got this, I'm a master, it's funny, all this unexpected stuff is happening with the cards as I'm talking, like I'm knocking them everywhere. That's the energy of chaos. So this is like working with chaos magic, and those of you who don't like chaos, this is not going to be a fun process, but it's going to be a very powerful process. It's going to be one that helps you learn how to release control at least a little bit more than you're used to having. I will also say, as I talk about this, I'm coming back into, if you can hear my voice getting clear, I'm coming back into my truth, and now I feel a block in the solar plexus. Most of the empaths, or specifically my type B people, you guys are probably going to feel a lot of blockages in the solar plexus, and you might feel this energy of control trying to grip onto you during this process. This might be a little bit of your anger and the other person's anger, because sometimes when we are spontaneous and we do it well, people who are more comfortable under control, or the guise of control, get pissed at us. So some of you guys, like, that's what I'm getting the most of, is I've had a really hard time passing some of this anger recently. It's been a more intense process on my transmutation work. And it's made me sick at times. So I will say, just be aware that there's definitely that available, or the potential for that right now. And try not to overthink. Try not to stress too much. Try not to overthink. But I will say this, if you have a cord that you're trying to cut, or if you have a situation that you're trying to work through where someone is more controlling, or somebody doesn't like how chill you are with the chaos, or how well you can handle the chaos, if somebody's having a hard time with that, some of you guys might have might be feeling that cutting of a codependency happening in the solar plexus, and that anger could be double. So just heads up. But again, don't fear it. Like I said, just like turkey shoot, the black diamond with the moguls on it. Don't go too slow, because if you go too slow, you get stuck. Don't give up when you're trying something new, like I did with the snowboarding. The moral of this story. And if you do get stuck and you got to take your skis off, put them right back on and go down the moguls. Don't walk down the moguls like a prideful asshole. So I hope that helps you when it comes to the next couple of weeks and tackling this. But just remember, try not to take your anger out on anybody unnecessarily. And this is, again, it's preparing us for an adaptation to a very strikingly striking change in the world. I'll say that. All right, you guys have a wonderful week, rest of the week, and I will see you soon. Until next time, take care.